frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. To you who are trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows them. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
So
we move on to the blue game.
So moving to our blue matchup, we'll let Woody start with Fabian Trixie.
One last thing
Sure.
that I think we did miss in that deck is like, if it does do a follow the leader with like multiple loot the bodies, it also has a war song. So if it's doing it where everything's fighting, it has a chance where like every time something fights and kills something, it's getting like 3 or 4 amber.
Yeah, no, I mean
That would be insane.
Yeah, no, the ceiling play for that deck is insane. It's just like, am I gonna let you set it up? Like, can that happen? And it doesn't feel incredibly likely to me that you're gonna have the time to set it up. But if you do, I'm in huge trouble. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with that. All right, so
moving to the blue matchup.
Yeah, this is the blue matchup. I'll start with Brobnar. This is an interesting double Grumbuggy deck with double Lollip, Ganger, Grow, Kragans, all that kind of typical Brobnar effective power, with Coward's End, which, you know, could come in big if the Grumbuggy is going the wrong way, if you even play it, and that's kind of a matchup thing, obviously. But that seems like kind of where the mind is with this deck. It's like, okay, we've got this massive board, and their keys are going to be, you know, a ridiculous cost. The Logos is kind of wired completely differently. With Knowledge is Power, Archimedes, I see like a little bit of archiving. Ideally, you're like bouncing the helper bot to and from your archives, and you're like playing out of house pretty frequently. Knowledge is Power, you're not going to cash it in for a ton because you really just have the Archimedes play. But if there is a way that you're doing that and you're like populating the board with other houses and stuff, that can sort of get out of hand. And then there's just some good, you know, speed plays, Library, Brabble, Wild Wormhole, which can help at this SAS level. Now the Untamed is interesting. We have another Mimicry. Double Glimmer is really interesting because it means you can do things like you can discard your key charge, and know that you're going to get it back at some point, basically. Flaxia and Dusk Witch are good cards. I don't know if the Flaxia will totally be dependent on like creature counts and stuff like that. This deck is 15, which isn't a ton. It does have Song of Spring though, which means if you're towards the end of your deck, you could have a situation where you populate a huge Untamed line, and then you make sure that you can do the Flaxia for 2 amber. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Again, we can talk mimicry targets when we get to your deck. I think the big thing is like the reason you kind of bring this deck is for that Brobnar to make keys cost a bunch, and then hopefully you're doing the sort of typical like generating amber with Untamed, and doing the speed thing with Logos, especially if you're getting that helper bot loop. I see that being really important.
Right. And then the one thing that I will add on top of that is of course the double Cutthroat research with the double Grumbuggy means that you're going to be stealing a lot.
Right.
At least that's the idea. Like, it's really going to pair well with that Brobnar. So moving to my deck, oh wow, it's it's a Grumbuggy deck trying to do virtually the same thing.
Right.
So moving on we'll start with the Brobnar just to kind of talk about it. We've got triple Grook, double Lollip the Titanic, Ganger Chieftain. We're trying to do the same thing. We have a Coward's End to respond to some boards again if that Grumbuggy is going the opposite direction, but we've got 3 grunt buggies in this game. Now, interesting tension in this deck is that you have a might makes right, which certainly you have enough effective power to cash that in. But as soon as you do, of course, you lose your tempo on the grunt buggy. So you want to be ideally doing that for 3rd key. Now, what is really, really interesting, though, we've got a free key in Brobnar, and then we've got a key abduction with a total recall in Mars. So we can see that there's a fair amount of creatures, 17, but they're really, really well kind of allocated, right? We've got a lot of creatures in Mars to do a kind of reaping. Zookeeper is going to play some really nice defense for you. But that Mars working with the Brobnar to generate 1 key cheated and 1 free key in virtually kind of any setup where you're dominating board, because the total recall will go off for so much and then your hand will be huge. So those 2 working together is going to hopefully give you 2 free keys. Shadows is relatively pedestrian, and that's just one of the sacrifices that you make at this kind of SAS level, is you have a house that can do some functional things. I mean, it's got a little bit of archiving with the Dust Chronicles, the Miasma to keep off a check. Swindle is really good in low SAS. Woody and I have talked about that before, where stealing 3 against a bad deck is so much better. I mean, a low SAS deck with like low pips is so much better than stealing 3 against a normal kind of Archon deck. Bryn to not potentially steal another 3, but no really great ways to kill it. You could use your Might Makes Right to kill it, which is really interesting, or a Coward's End. So yeah, I mean, both of those are in Brobnar, but nothing to do it immediately in Shadows. Moving to the matchup specific, I think we have a bit of a brawl here, right? Where you're going to need to, like, if we were playing this matchup, we would test it out playing the buggies and not playing the buggies. And I'm thinking with my deck, I'm thinking I want to play them. I don't know how you feel about yours.
You've got like twice the effective power.
Yeah.
The triple grope. It may be a timing thing. Neither deck has R, which is kind of funny. So if you really got to think about it.
Right. Yeah, there's no way out of it once you put it down.
It is interesting because the Might Makes Right is something that you probably can't afford in that deck if you do want to go the grunt buggy route. Something to consider though is like the mimicry makes it so that they could also do Might Makes Right. And
right.
They have reasonably could do it with, because they've also got double Lollip, which is like basically you just need that if you want to do Might Makes Right. It's interesting. It's possible they could also do a really crazy total recall play with your mimicry.
Yeah, it's a dangerous matchup to have a mimicry. But I'm thinking we have roughly equivalent game plans. Yeah. I mean, it's really tough to kind of even suggest a winner. It's the same thing that we had dealt with in the previous matchup. What I will say is that I feel like I have kind of, like you said, like an effective power edge in Brobnar. So if I'm playing,
I think Scammer has a better matchup. I think it's just like it's interesting because for me, what really is making this a game is the mimicry, because you have it's got so many options. Miasma, Swindle, Hypno Beam, like it's got tons of options as far as that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think is a big edge in this matchup for the Scammer, which we seem to be leaning both towards AC here, is the Relentless Assault is absolutely massive in this deck, in addition to the Gengar. I think it will be able to dominate board. And yes, you do have a Coward's End, but you're working at like low speed. You do have the mimicry. But maybe, I don't know, I have a slight chance to stash away my Coward's End so that I could save it for a good time instead of just tossing it for a bad mimicry target for me, potentially. But I do think if I board, you're only going to have one response to that. So yeah, I think that I do give this one to the Scammer on gut.
Yeah, I think it too.
All right.
And we're back. So this game had already started by when they told me it was going on. So I quickly jumped in and then had to mess about with the settings. This game happened before the captain's game, so this is what I was on about before. That the settings got a bit messed up, but very strong lead coming from Illmaster. Not quite on check, but only one behind with Big Z. Bringing up the rear. Dust Chronicle's going to be able to draw an extra card. Plays the Gamgee for extra steel power. But double Grunt Buggy down for Illmaster. And I believe Zarfuser, we saw that Zarfuser has a Grunt Buggy in the deck as well, which being halfway through the deck on turn 6 means that he's going to be coming in. The Helper Bot, one of my favourite cards, drops the Gauntlet. That could be huge here with the amount of Grogs floating around.
Sorry, I've lost my stream. Give me a sec. I'll be there. Okay, I'm back.
Uses special ability to purge the Helper Bot, drops the second lot of the Titanic. Plays Relentless Assault, which is going to get rid of the Dharma. Then Reap, get up to 8. Big Z wants this first key very quickly whilst maintaining a strong denial on Illmasters. Goes into Bromnar, so Big Z not going to get the key here. There's one Groke. Plays into the fray on the Groke with 2 lot of the Titanics down. This cannot end well. Readies Groke with the Gauntlet command. Fights, loses 1. Fights again, loses 1. Fights again, loses 1. Got 2 more uses left. Fights, leaves the Gamgee. That I'd have killed the Gamgee off and left the big Lola, but that's so took Z down from 8 to 3. There's the Gamgee doing stealing 2, keeping Illmaster off check. Uses Groke to fight, uses Gauntlet command to fight into the fence, puts Big Z back down to 3, and then immediately passes. There's the 3rd Grunt Buggy. Now this is where things get nuts.
It was nuts already with 2. 3's just extreme.
Keys currently cost 9 either side. Draws Library Bubble. Knowledge is power to archive a card. Go for this sub. While Wormholes into Ganga Chieftain, is it gonna be a fight into Groke or Gamgee to get rid of 1? It's a fight into Groke. Once again, those key costs down. Cutthroat Research for no additional value. This is it. It's a bit buggy, isn't it, Ultimo? Here comes another Groke for Big Z. Ganga Chieftain. You see in reverse what happened there, but that keeps Illmaster off the check because keys currently cost 9. These Grunt Buggies are insane. There's Glimmer. Glimmer to return Dharma. Oh, returns Ganga Chieftain. Ooh. With the Porcupine on Dharma, Garage Cycle. So, I think what Illmaster's trying to set up here is a heal train, where they're going to be able to fight with the Groke, using Ganga Chieftain, using Gauntlet command. They're going to Untamed to heal up the Groke, setting up a 2-turn chain of healing and amber loss. Reach with Gamgee, and Illmaster does forge the first key for 9, but does manage to forge the key. We did see a steal that turn as well on from the Gamgee. Plays low up, plays Groke. Ganga Chieftain will fight Gamgee, steal 1. Oh, Groke. Yeah, Groke is got the command used, and then we see the Ganga Chieftain come next to Groke. Finish off the Gamgee. I'm trying to put it so people can actually see what's going on. Discards the Coward's End. And obviously Gamgee's gone 2 damage on the Groke, which means that Dharma would be able to heal it. 5 damage off a Mother Gun to finish off Ganga Chieftain. Key Abduction, bounces nothing. Combat Pheromones. Sky Booster Squadron. And a Think Drone. Think Drone and a Harvester. Ooh, Harvester's in a nice position there. Goes into Untamed. A Glimmer to bring back the Ganga Chieftain again. No, returns persistent hunting. Uses persistent hunting to tap down the Mars. Very nice play. Reaps with Dharma. Uses that heal ability. Uses discards mimicry because we just seen it go over. Hello, Jupiter. You just joined us with AC regulars taking on Starship looters.
Evening, Jupiter. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope the kids are good.
Currently, there are 3 grunt buggies down. Absolute insanity. Archimedes next to the Groke. Seismo Tango. Seismo Tango can be very strong here. Key cost is currently 18 for Elmaster and 14 for Zafuza. Big Z. Let's get that board a little bit more manageable to see. Goggins fights time mechanic. It does take 6 damage in return. Combat foremost, use the harvester and the mother gun. Nice use of the mother gun. Deal 2 damage to Archimedes, take it off the board, being able to damage. And Big Z, re-establishing control of his board now. Wants to take everything down. Grunk can go for the ammo control. Get rid of the big creatures. Get up to 10. And Big Z now on check at 9. 18 for Elmaster if he wants to get a key. Coward's End wipes the board, but does still keep the board, make it hard to get complete control. Groggins, so we're gonna, into the fray of Groggins. Groggins fights Groke. Reaper Groggins. Pass. Big Z's denied the key once again. Keys currently cost 12, and Elmaster's got his keys down to 9. Mulligan finishes off Groggins. So that's Total Recall getting up to 12. Oh, Zookeeper could be a Hypno Beam on the Lollop. Big Z's keys only cost 6 now.
Wow.
That Hypno Beam is huge. We're in Logos. Logos not known for its big creatures. But Cutthroat Research does steal 2. It's a very nice use of Cutthroat Research.
I'd say there's got a few Titans, man. It's not like they're not known for it.
Not in
yeah, point taken.
well, AOA.
Yeah, okay, point taken.
Sound the horns to go get another load of the Titanic. Just dropped most of his deck back into this guy, so we're going to see a reshuffle. But Big Z establishing board dominance again. On check for the second key with 6. Elmaster only a third of the way to his key cost at 6. Plays Gengar Chieftain, no additional value. Is going to be able to fight into Lollop, but makes no difference because it's just to keep Big Z off check. But now we're going to see Zookeeper nick that Gengar Chieftain. Then we're going to see Think Drone archive up Ilmaster's Lollop. That's a very interesting play. Big Z gets the key, gets the blue key off the key abduction. So Big Z now firmly in control. Song of Spring gets him to 7. Plays Dharma. Oh, that's a sad Phylaxia.
That's unusual for Phylaxia. I mean, that's just... You're desperate at that point.
Gravitaiko to get back Coward's End. Bromna, I don't think it's going to matter here. Might makes right. And Big Z wins off of Might makes right.
Wow.
AC regulars are 2 up. I will, yes.